Let's be real, stress is everywhere. It sneaks into our homes, our workplaces, even our quiet moments. It shows up when we least expect it, making small things feel like mountains. But here's the good news. Stress doesn't have to control us. We have the power to manage it, rise above it, and walk in peace no matter what comes our way. First, understand this: stress is not the enemy. Life will always have difficulties, but stress is not about what happens to us. It's about how we handle it. If we let every challenge shake us, we'll always feel overwhelmed. But if we learn to take a deep breath, step back, and trust that we have what it takes, stress loses its power. Second, shift your focus from the problem to the solution. It's easy to replay our worries like a broken record. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? But has worry ever changed anything? No. Instead of feeding stress, start asking, what can I do about this situation? Take action where you can and let go of what you can't control. Third, don't just survive, thrive. Stress drains us because we let it. We weren't meant to live exhausted, frustrated, and overwhelmed. Take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Set boundaries, get rest. And most importantly, find moments of joy even in tough times. And finally, peace is a choice. If we wait for everything in life to be perfect before we feel at peace, we'll be waiting forever. True peace doesn't come from a stress-free life. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, we are strong enough to handle it. So today, let's make a decision not to let stress rule over us, but to rise above it. Because life is too short to spend it worrying. Instead, let's live with courage, confidence, and a heart full of peace. Thank you. Stress is not the enemy. Our response to it is. That statement alone can change the way we approach life's challenges. We often think that if we could just eliminate stress, life would be perfect. No more deadlines, no more unexpected setbacks, no more difficult people to deal with. But let's be honest, there will never be a time in life where stress completely disappears. No matter how much we try to avoid it, stress will show up in different forms at different times and in different intensities. It is not something we can fully escape. But what if we stopped seeing stress as the problem and started seeing it as an opportunity to grow? Think about this. Two people can go through the exact same situation and come out of it completely different. One person may break down under pressure while the other rises stronger than before. Why? Because it's not about what happens to us. The way we respond to stress is what determines whether we live in frustration and exhaustion or whether we rise above the chaos and find peace. So many times we allow stress to take control simply because we believe we have no other option. We feel overwhelmed, so we assume we must stay overwhelmed. We feel anxious, so we assume we must live in anxiety. But the truth is, we have a choice. We may not be able to control every situation, but we can absolutely control our reaction to it. That is where our power lies, not in eliminating stress, but in handling it differently. Let's take an example. Imagine you're in traffic, late for an important meeting, and the car in front of you is moving at a painfully slow pace. You start gripping the steering wheel tighter. Your heart rate speeds up. You're frustrated, maybe even angry. Why? Because you feel like you're losing control of the situation. But what if in that moment you reminded yourself that getting angry won't change the speed of traffic? What if instead of letting stress take over, you chose to breathe, relax your grip, and accept the moment for what it is? The situation hasn't changed, but your response has. And because of that, your stress level drops and peace takes its place. Now, this doesn't mean we ignore stress completely or pretend life isn't difficult sometimes. There will be days when the pressure feels too much to bear. There will be moments when we are pushed to our limits. But even in those times, we still have a choice. We can let stress consume us, or we can choose to take a step back, regain perspective, and remind ourselves that we are stronger than we feel. Many people believe that stress is a sign that something is wrong in their lives. They think, if I were doing everything right, I wouldn't feel this way. But stress is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're human. It means you care, you're pushing yourself, and you're engaged in life. The key is not to eliminate stress, but to learn how to carry it in a way that doesn't break you. One of the best ways to manage stress is to develop a mindset that doesn't see every challenge as a catastrophe. If we expect life to be easy, we will be frustrated every time we face resistance. But if we understand that challenges are part of the journey, we can handle them with more patience and resilience. It's like going to the gym. If you never lift any weight, you never get stronger. The same is true for life. Every time you face stress and handle it well, you build the strength to handle even more in the future. Another thing to remember is that stress often comes from what we focus on. If all we do is focus on our problems, they will feel bigger than they actually are. But when we shift our focus, when we remind ourselves of what we can do, what we do have, and what is still good in our lives, stress loses its power. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for managing stress because it shifts our perspective from what's wrong to what's right. So today, I encourage you to change the way you see stress. Stop looking at it as an enemy and start seeing it as something you can manage. When life gets overwhelming, take a deep breath, step back, and remind yourself, stress is not in control of you. You are in control of how you respond to it. And when you respond with wisdom, peace, and confidence, stress no longer has the power to steal your joy. Shift your focus from the problem to the solution. This one change in perspective can completely transform how you handle stress. The reality is problems are a part of life. No matter how much we try to avoid them, they will show up. Sometimes one at a time and sometimes all at once. And when they do, our natural instinct is often to worry, overthink, and dwell on everything that could go wrong. But has worrying ever fixed anything? Has stressing over a situation ever magically solved it? The answer is no. If anything, excessive worrying only drains our energy, steals our joy, and makes the problem feel even bigger than it actually is. The reason so many people feel overwhelmed by stress is that they spend more time thinking about their problems than working on solutions. When something difficult happens, it's easy to get stuck in a cycle of negativity, replaying the problem over and over again in our minds, talking about it to everyone who will listen, and allowing it to consume our thoughts. But the more we focus on the problem, the more powerless we feel. We start to believe that things are out of our control, that there's no way out, and that stress is just something we have to accept. But what if we made a conscious decision to shift our focus? What if, instead of dwelling on the problem, we immediately started looking for solutions? Instead of saying, this is so unfair, why is this happening to me? We could ask, what can I do about this? What steps can I take to make this situation better? Even if we can't completely solve the issue right away, we can always take some kind of positive action, and that action, no matter how small, gives us a sense of control. It reminds us that we are not helpless, that we have the ability to change our circumstances, even if it's just one step at a time. Think about how a skilled captain navigates a storm. When rough waters hit, they don't sit there complaining about the waves or panicking about the wind. They focus on steering the ship. They adjust the sails, change direction if necessary, and do whatever it takes to get through the storm safely. Life works the same way. We will all face storms, but if we spend too much time focusing on how big the waves are, we'll miss the opportunity to guide ourselves through them. Shifting our focus from problems to solutions also helps us see things more clearly. When we're stressed, emotions can cloud our judgment. We might feel like things are worse than they really are, or that there's no way forward. But when we step back and approach the situation with a solutions-focused mindset, we start to see options we hadn't noticed before. We begin to realize that there is a way to move forward, and that stress is only as powerful as we allow it to be. This doesn't mean we ignore our feelings or pretend everything is fine when it's not. It's okay to feel frustrated, disappointed, or even scared when problems arise, but we don't have to stay in that place. We can acknowledge our feelings without letting them dictate our response. Instead of saying, "I can't handle this," we can say, "This is tough, but I will find a way through it." Instead of thinking everything is falling apart, we can say, "I may not have all the answers right now, but I will take one step at a time." The truth is, we often underestimate our ability to figure things out. We assume that just because we don't have an immediate answer, there isn't one. But throughout history, people have overcome seemingly impossible challenges simply because they refused to let the problem be bigger than the solution. They kept searching, kept trying, and eventually found a way. That same ability is inside each of us. The key is to believe that a solution exists, even when we can't see it yet. Another powerful tool in shifting our focus is perspective. Sometimes what feels like a major problem today will be something we barely remember a year from now. When we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, we realize that many of our worries are temporary. The things that feel overwhelming in the moment often lose their power over time. That's why it's so important to remind ourselves that stress is not permanent. It is just a moment in time, and we will get through it. So the next time stress tries to take over, pause and ask yourself, am I focusing too much on the problem? What can I do to move toward a solution? Even if the answer isn't clear right away, trust it will come. Take action where you can. Let go of what you can't control. And remind yourself that problems don't define you. How you handle them does. Don't just survive, thrive. Too many people go through life feeling like they're barely hanging on. They wake up already exhausted, drag themselves through the day, and collapse into bed at night, only to repeat the cycle all over again. Stress has become so normal that they don't even question it anymore. But life is not meant to be a never-ending struggle. We are not here just to get by, just to push through, just to keep our heads above water. We are meant to thrive, to enjoy life, to grow, and to experience peace and fulfillment even in the midst of challenges. The problem is, when stress takes over, it blinds us to what's possible. It keeps us in survival mode, always reacting, always running on empty. Instead of being present and enjoying life, we're too busy worrying about the next thing on our to-do list. Instead of feeling excited about the future, we feel weighed down by everything that could go wrong. But what if we stopped letting stress dictate our lives? What if we made a decision right now that we are going to do more than just get through life, we are going to truly live? The first step in thriving is to take care of yourself. It's easy to say, "I don't have time for rest," or "I'll take care of myself later." But the truth is, we can't pour from an empty cup. If we're constantly drained, constantly pushing ourselves past our limits, we won't have the energy to enjoy life or even to handle stress effectively. Thriving means prioritizing our well-being, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It means getting enough sleep, fueling our bodies with good food, and taking time to recharge. It means setting boundaries and learning to say no when necessary. It means making space for things that bring us joy, whether it's a hobby, time with loved ones, or simply a moment of quiet. Thriving also means shifting our mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. When we are in survival mode, We live with the constant fear that there is never enough time, never enough energy, never enough resources. But when we choose to thrive, we begin to see that there is enough. There is enough time to do what truly matters. There is enough strength within us to face challenges. There is enough joy to be found even in difficult seasons. It's all about what we choose to focus on. If we believe life is just a struggle, that's what we will experience. But if we believe that even in stress, we can find moments of peace, purpose, and gratitude, then that's what we will experience instead. Another important part of thriving is learning to let go. So much stress comes from holding on to things we were never meant to carry. Past mistakes, regrets, resentment, unrealistic expectations. We replay past failures in our minds, worry about things we can't control, and hold ourselves to impossible standards. But none of that helps us move forward. If we want to thrive, we have to release the things that weigh us down. We have to forgive ourselves and others. We have to stop letting stress steal our joy and start focusing on what truly matters. Thriving is also about living with purpose. When we are just surviving, we get stuck in the cycle of doing what we have to do, never thinking about what we want to do. But we all have dreams, talents, and passions that make life meaningful. Thriving means making time for those things. It means setting goals, stepping outside our comfort zones, and embracing opportunities for growth. Even if life feels overwhelming, we can still take small steps toward the things that excite us. We can still choose to find meaning in what we do. One of the biggest obstacles to thriving is fear. Fear of failure, fear of change, fear of not being enough. But fear keeps us stuck. It convinces us that playing it safe is the best option, that we should just do what's expected and not take risks. But if we want to thrive, we have to be willing to step out in faith. We have to believe that we are capable of more than just getting by. We have to trust that even in the face of stress, we have the power to create a life that is full and fulfilling. Thriving doesn't mean life will be perfect or that stress will disappear. It doesn't mean we won't have difficult days, but it does mean that we don't have to be controlled by stress. It means that even in the middle of challenges, we can choose joy. We can choose to see the good. We can choose to live with purpose and passion instead of just going through the motions. So today, ask yourself, am I just surviving? Am I letting stress drain me, or am I choosing to take care of myself, shift my mindset, and focus on what really matters? Because at the end of the day, we don't just want to look back and say, I made it through. We want to say, I lived, I grew, I thrived. Peace is a choice, not a feeling. That may sound strange at first because we often think of peace as something that just happens when everything in life is going smoothly. We assume that once we have less stress, fewer responsibilities, and no major problems, we will finally feel peaceful. But if we wait for life to be perfect before we allow ourselves to have peace, we will be waiting forever. Life will always have challenges. There will always be something to worry about, something to figure out, or something unexpected around the corner. If peace depended on external circumstances, no one would ever truly experience it. That's why peace isn't something we find, it's something we choose. It's an intentional decision to remain calm, to trust that things will work out, and to refuse to let stress control our thoughts. It doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It means learning to respond to life in a way that protects our inner well-being no matter what is happening around us. Think about how easy it is to let stress dictate our emotions. Maybe your day starts off great, but then something small goes wrong, a rude email, an unexpected delay, a frustrating conversation, and suddenly your peace is gone. Your mind starts racing, frustration builds, and before you know it, one little moment has ruined your entire day. But did that situation really have the power to steal your peace, or did you give it that power? The truth is, most of the time, it's not the actual problem that takes away our peace, it's our reaction to it. The good news is, if we have the ability to give stress power over us, then we also have the ability to take that power back. We can decide in any situation that we are not going to let stress, fear, or frustration control us. We can choose to take a deep breath, pause before reacting, and remind ourselves that no problem is bigger than our ability to handle it. This isn't always easy. Our natural response to challenges is often to worry, overthink, or try to fix everything immediately. But true peace comes when we learn to let go of what we can't control. There are some things in life that we can work toward changing, but there are also things that are simply out of our hands. We can't control how other people act. We can't control every outcome. We can't predict the future, but we can control our mindset. We can decide that no matter what happens, we will not live in a constant state of anxiety. Another key to choosing peace is learning to slow down. Many of us live in a constant rush, always thinking about the next task, the next problem, the next responsibility. We convince ourselves that if we just keep going, if we just push through, we'll eventually reach a place where we can finally relax. But peace isn't something that comes after we get everything done. It's something we have to practice in the middle of our busy lives. Taking a moment to pause, to breathe, to step away from stress is not a waste of time. It's one of the most important things we can do for our mental and emotional well-being. Gratitude is another powerful way to cultivate peace. When we focus on what we don't have, on what's going wrong, or on what's missing, stress takes over. But when we make a habit of focusing on what we do have, on the good things in our lives, even in difficult times, peace follows. Gratitude shifts our perspective. It reminds us that no matter what we're going through, there is always something to be thankful for. And when we choose gratitude, we choose peace. Boundaries also play a huge role in protecting our peace. We have to be intentional about what we allow into our lives. That might mean setting limits on how much news or social media we consume, because constant negativity fuels stress. It might mean distancing ourselves from toxic relationships that drain us emotionally. It might mean saying no to commitments that overwhelm us. Protecting our peace is not selfish, it's necessary. Choosing peace also means refusing to let the past or the future steal the present moment. So many of us live in regret over things we can't change, or in fear of things that haven't even happened yet. But peace can only exist right now in this present moment. When we let go of what's behind us and stop worrying about what's ahead, we free ourselves to fully experience life as it is. At the end of the day, peace is not about having a life without problems. It's about learning to remain steady no matter what is happening around us. It's about knowing that even in stress, even in uncertainty, even in difficulty, we can choose to remain calm, focused, and strong. Peace isn't something we wait for, it's something we create. And the more we practice choosing peace, the more it becomes a natural way of living.